But Jesus declined the offer. The Roman Emperor Constantine made St. Peter's wish a reality 350 years later, give or take. Christ then gets terrible news from a messenger. Lazarus, a friend of Jesus, is sick and dying. Christ also likes the sisters of Lazarus, Mary and Martha, and all three had treated him very kindly. Jesus could have rushed to Lazarus' house in Bethany, a suburb of Jerusalem, or could have healed him long distance. But instead, Christ waits for his friend Lazarus to die. Lazarus, in death, will soon become a living parable. The drama of his death and resurrection will give the followers of Christ insights about God that mere words could never convey. Seeing will be believing, and faith in God will dramatically increase. Now, visiting the home of Lazarus at this point in time will be a somewhat dangerous house call for Jesus Christ. And the disciples try to talk him out of it. During the festival of Hanukkah, some Jerusalem Jews, in Jerusalem, of course, had picked up stones to kill Jesus. So it will be risky. The disciples decide to go back with him and die with him, if necessary. Jesus is roughly 100 miles north of Jerusalem, east of the Sea of Galilee and beyond the Jordan River, in the region of Bithynia. So it takes him roughly 4 days to travel to Lazarus, 20 to 25 miles a day, give or take. By that time, Lazarus is dead. His body has been washed and dressed. He has been wrapped in cloth strips and scented with spices. His face has been covered with a linen cloth, and his body has been wrapped in a shroud. When Christ arrives, Lazarus has been dead for 4 days, and many friends and family are still hovering near Mary and Martha, the sisters of Lazarus. Jesus is immediately confronted by the grieving sisters, who has, as I mentioned, had hosted Christ in the past. They had fed him and anointed him with oil. Christ at first weeps. Then he gets very angry. We are not exactly sure why. Martha meets Jesus just outside the village and laments that he should have come sooner. Then Lazarus would not have died. She blames him for her brother's death. Christ assures Martha that Lazarus will rise again. Mary then arrives weeping along with her entourage of grieving friends and family. Jesus sees the weeping and the wailing. Ay vey. And while deep anger rises up inside him, something troubles Christ, and he bursts into tears. Now, is Jesus angry about the pain that death causes, or is he angry at the people's lack of faith? We just don't know. We really just don't know for sure what Jesus is angry about and why he is weeping. Christ then asks to see the tomb of Lazarus, a small cavern chiseled into the face of a limestone hill. Abandoned rock quarries were often converted into cemeteries by the Jews. The tomb entrance has already been sealed shut by a flat, circle-shaped stone. Jesus asks some of the men to open up the tomb, but Martha tries to stop him. Lazarus, says Martha, has been dead 4 days, and his corpse will smell terrible. Now, necromancers, wizards, and sorcerers who try to raise the dead must perform rituals and recite complex incantations. But Jesus speaks only 3 words, saying these words loud and clear. Lazarus, come out. Lazarus has not been wrapped up mummy style. He's dressed in fine clothes, his feet gently bound at the ankles, and his arms gently bound at his sides. A napkin-like linen cloth covers his face. Lazarus rises up and comes out of the tomb. Unwrap him and let him go, says Jesus. Now, of course, talk about this miracle soon spreads like wildfire. The Jewish leaders in Jerusalem soon get word of this rising from the dead and fear that this dramatic miracle performed so close to the center of Jewish life, so close to Jerusalem, will convince the people that Jesus is indeed the Messiah, and that now is the time for rebellion, the time to drive out the Romans and restore Israel to independence and her former glory. This war against Rome will end in disaster, as well as the destruction of the temple. And 40 years later, in 70 AD, that's exactly what happens. So, the Sanhedrin Council decide that the final solution to this problem of Jesus is to kill Christ. Little do these high priests realize that they are indeed fulfilling the prophecy of the scriptures. Dying for the people is exactly what Jesus has come to earth to do, just as the prophets had predicted. Christ has a knack for making enemies in high places, and his death is inevitable. Jesus must take on the high and the mighty insiders who run the corrupt system and oppress the powerless. It is the job of the Messiah to do exactly that. All right, with that thought, we're going to take another musical break. When we return, we're going to examine the greatest miracle of them all, Jesus rising from the dead. We're going to get into the resurrection of Christ. But first, some more music.